within the political fraternity, with ministers, with MPs, MLAs. So the possibilities are immense. I think what we are trying to do with the fellowship here is ensure wherever fellows go, they get the right support structure, the right sort of supervisory, cover. That is, we talked about demand last time. Is there demand? So we would like the fellows to be engaging with people who would actually provide that demand and create opportunities for them. And I think, just in the last about 8 months that I have worked with Mr. Naveen Jindal, I keep saying this, barring the CAP issues that everybody talks about. I know I'm not working with one of the CAP panchayats. But barring those issues, if you really see the politician side of him, he has been involved in extensive development initiatives in Kurukshetra, which is his constituency. I've been supporting him on the education side, Kazal works with him on the health side. But clearly there is a space there where we've been supporting a politician, helping him, work with the administration, further his own agenda. So there are spaces. We are not limited to just central government here. There are several spaces. It will depend on where the opportunities are live, where the demand exists, and where the fellows would like to go.
Terrific. Why don't I just put myself in the shoes of the audience and start asking a few questions, and then open it up to the audience to ask you a few questions. So you want to comments?
Yeah. As from the consumer side or government side, I think I have a couple of colleagues who can add on to this. I have 2 comments. One that the program should be supported by an institutional framework, which would typically start with the pre-induction stage, exposure right from the pre-induction stage, and then hand-holding and feedback and interaction during the program, and the deliverables at the end of the program, which could be defined up front and then evaluated as things go on. And there was mention of the network which would develop, the alumni network, so to say. So that institution could house all that information and memory, and that would be very useful.
I think it's an excellent point.
My second comment was that looking at the structure that you mentioned, the 2 in the US, that perhaps to begin with, inducting people with more experience, 3 to 6 years or 7 years, from the consumer's point of view would be more useful.
Both are very helpful suggestions. Let me start off with a few sort of, let me just say, pointed questions, and then we'll take more from the audience itself. So when I think a little bit about, do I need to have a view before I start this fellowship as to what I want to do? There are many of us in the audience who have no idea, who are using this as a way to experiment, to try and really understand how this thing works, realizing whether they want to make a commitment or not. Do I need to be absolutely clear? Or can I, in fact, use this as a way for me to decide where I go?
So that's a very interesting question, and I was exactly in this frame of mind when I was making the transition from McKinsey to this opportunity, which again, as Shah mentioned, happened by accident. It's absolutely necessary to know what sector or what field you're going to be working in. So if I'm passionate about health or education or agriculture, at least the sector you should be really clear about. And say, so that's really important, because that helps you bring, if you have previous professional experience, that helps you add value to wherever you're going, and it'll just magnify the impact that you'll be able to create. At the same time, because you're passionate about the idea, it'll just show in the work that you're doing. Regarding what exactly, like the nuances of it, that probably you'll be working on this project, this district, this person, I think that is for you to decide on during the fellowship, and that is where your softer elements will play a bigger role, that the way you interact with people, how self-driven you are, what opportunities you can create for you to have impact in that area. So it's a mix of both. While you should be clear about the sector, it should be left open to how you can take it forward and what impact you can create.
Let me ask one question of a member of the audience who actually is doing, if I could just call it that, an internship, actually with a political party. He's a private sector individual with the experience, and he's working in a. And I'm just curious to hear you talk a bit about your experience, and also what you've learned from it. I mean, is that something that you would say has been a great year away from the work you've done in the private sector? Could you just comment a bit on your own experience? And again, could you please say your name as well, please? And,
well, my name is Ashish Manvar, and I'm on a year-long sabbatical from my company called GYIPS, part of the strategy division. Both me and my wife have taken a year off and just hoping to find purpose and meaning, just like the way the panel was describing earlier. So we decided to experiment with a bunch of things, one of which includes a political party, a recently formed political party in Uttar Pradesh, which is basically looking after finding people of integrity and competence and empowering them to make a difference from the village and block level. And so we're trying to find a way, both me and my wife, helping generate that leadership and helping them understand about policy frameworks, how to implement that, hand-holding them through that. So that's been one really neat experiment. It's been very discouraging because finding people of integrity is, it's really difficult. But we have found people. I want to encourage us that we have found people who we find worth giving our time to. The other things that we're experimenting are in the areas of social entrepreneurship, something to do with energy and water and waste management, also wealth generation opportunities with a lot of poor people. But having said that, a few comments, maybe a question for the panelists or even the folks who were in the panel before. I'm hearing a lot about the fellowship. I'm not sure which part of the value chain we are trying to fix. Right? I want to understand that a little more. But I really understand being part of government would really be leadership. It's all leadership, really. You're servant leadership. You are serving the people. You're a minister. The word minister really means you're a servant. Motivations of being part of government or governance. If leadership is the issue that we're trying to solve, wouldn't we expect people to have at least some initiative demonstrated with people on the ground, villages, trying to optimize some things or trying to bring healing or do something with just the way Ghazal was mentioning, using your own skills or experience. Where does that fit into the equation? Am I making sense?
No, you completely are making sense. Let me just take that. As you know, we've been running a bit of an experiment. Ankit, I'm wondering whether you can specifically talk about, looking at the very local district level, particularly in education, and what's happened over the last, let's just say, 6 months.
So, to your point on where we are trying to fix, or where the fellowship really fills the gap, I think it's not really, I will come to that in a second. So it's not really about providing the leadership. You have leaders who are providing leadership. I think the fellowship is about, or you have senior civil servants who are exceptional people. They've come through a very, very rigorous system to the levels they have come to. I think the gap we are filling is providing bandwidth to these institutions. We talked about the cream, and I think you mentioned the cream without the milk, right? So the cream does require that level of bandwidth, and that's where I think the fellows come in a big way in providing that support. To your question on whether the work would be on the ground or not, I can talk from my experience. So this time, working with Mr. Naveen Jindal,